Echo.
Okay, welcome to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners meeting. This is a public meeting that is being aired live on our local cable television station, QAC TV 7. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our public sessions. To comply with the governor's proclamation declaring a state of emergency in Maryland to minimize the person-to-person spread of COVID-19, we ask that citizens stay home and watch the County Commissioners meeting live on our QAC website at www.qac.org/live, or you may tune in to QAC TV's television channel on Atlantic Broadband Cable on Channel 7 or Channel 77. To maintain social distancing, seating will be restricted to invited presenters. If you have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, and/or shortness of breath, please refrain from attending the meeting and notify a healthcare provider. We are screening all meeting participants prior to entering the building. Press and public comment is still encouraged. Citizens can join the live Zoom meeting by going to www.qac.org/public comment, or you may email comments to publiccomment@qac.org, or you can leave voicemail comments by calling 443-262-4601. We will accept public comments up until approximately 6 p.m. Comments received will be read during the press and public comment period on this evening's agenda. Citizens may also submit written testimony to the County Commissioners by mail at 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland, or by email at qaccommissioners&administrator@qac.org. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a moment of silence today for all of our military serving abroad, since we haven't spoken for them in a while. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioners, we can move to the approval of today's agenda. The agenda for today's meeting, May 26, 2020, and the regular and closed session minutes from your May 12th meeting and your budget work session meeting held on May 19th were distributed electronically for review. Do we have any additions or corrections?
No, there is none.
Make a motion to accept.
Second. A motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. And we did reinstitute the public comment period at the beginning and at the end of the meeting, and we also have a third section for the after the hearing tonight. So for those out in TV land, I will read this one time for their benefit. Thank you for taking the time to express your views to the County Commissioners during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. When you come forward, when you present your comments, please speak clearly. State your name, address, and topic of interest. Keeping with the dignity of the office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. The Commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. We ask as a courtesy to the Board and our citizens, you respect the Commissioner's request and refrain from name-calling and naming citizens and name-calling when offering any critique. Okay, so
Go to Zoom.
do we have any public comments?
We do. We have one in Zoom right now, so I'm going to mute our room in here.
Hi, this is Jay Falstad from Queen Anne's Conservation Association. Commissioners, good evening, and thank you for your continued service during this crazy time. Commissioners, I wanted to just take a minute and talk about something that I hope you all as a commission will start to focus on. And I provided a document earlier with some background. But the issue has to deal with Sothersville, and I assume by now you all are familiar with the Nitro Circus Circuit 199 proposal being considered for the town. This is a drastic change from anything that has ever occurred in the community. And if you read some of the proposals that are contained within the Pastrana document, he's talking about bringing in anywhere between 10 and 30,000 spectators to one of his events. And that would be a couple times a year. Or second to that, there are some smaller events that are still within the thousands. Sothersville is a small town. This whole thing is predicated on the notion that it's going to somehow help with the water and sewer debt, yet there's no evidence anywhere that that this proposal will help on that front. But more importantly, commissioners, because of the size of this venue and the number of people that it will be using, the problems will spill beyond the borders of Sothersville and require the county and emergency services and police, I think, to play an active role. And the reason that this is so important is because right now, Sothersville and Sothersville's governance is a mess. They can barely manage their water and sewer service. And to think that they're going to somehow be able to have oversight over a multi-million-dollar venue like this is just, it's folly to think that they're going to have that capability. So I hope that you will ask other departments to start taking a look at this, particularly the planning department and emergency services, and start asking the hard questions, because this is a huge venue and something that has the capacity to dramatically change the entire north part of the county. Thank you very much for the time, and please stay safe.
And I'm going to go back over to you, Mike, to unmute. And we're now back in the room.
No other public comment then?
Not regarding, they're all for later in the budget.
Okay, great. All right, commissioners, if you want to turn to tab number 3.
Do we need to close press and public comment?
I thought we were reading, we had no more to?
Well, all the other stuff is for really doing the.
It's budgetary. Okay, very good.
Yeah, budget
All right,
comments.
so that's it for press and public comment, and we'll move on.
We can move on, yes, to new business, commissioners. We have 5 action items under tab 3 and 1 desk item this evening. The first item is a proclamation that is for the Judy Center Early Learning Hub proclamation. So would one of you please read that?
I think it's over there with you, is it not?
I think Steve's got it.
It's in your
right there.
book, tab 3, item 1,
Got it.
page 1. Yeah.
Whereas the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, at request of the residents, declare the county as a Judy Center Early Learning Hub of Queen Anne's County, Judy Center community, and whereas all residents have been called upon to celebrate the contributions of the Judy Center in promoting the support and empowerment of families of young children, birth to 5, residing in Queen Anne's County for the past 20 years. And whereas the Judy Center staff vow to continue their dedicated service to promote early school readiness with parent and caregiver empowerment, and whereas the Judy Center will continue to collaborate to provide positive caregiver, parent, and child empowerment initiatives such as the Judy Center Social Skills Development Playgroups, Judy Center Home Visits, Judy Center Pre-K and Kindergarten events and activities, and miscellaneous Judy Center supported community outreach events, partnering program supports and staff professional development opportunities. And whereas the Judy Center will deliver services with dignity and respect to caregivers, parents, and young children residing in the current catchment area of Sudlersville Elementary School, regardless of race, religion, or creed. And whereas the Judy Center will ensure staff that will provide personal examples of outstanding character, ensuring many opportunities to model outstanding character traits during events and activities. And the Judy Center will strive to create and foster an environment that supports the development of early school readiness skills in young children in an effort to provide caregivers and parents in Queen Anne's County the support for their families to thrive. And whereas the Judy Center asks all community members, including caregivers, parents, and young children residing in Queen Anne's County, to celebrate the occurrence of their 20th anniversary. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, Do hereby designate the month of May 2020 as the Judy Center Early Learning Hub of Queen Anne's County, 20th Anniversary Celebration Month, and acknowledge the vast contributions the Judy Center has provided to residents of Queen Anne's County over the past 20 years. Queen Anne's County Commissioners.
Thank you.
So be it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wilson, for reading that tonight. Okay, item number 2 on page 2 is the FY21 sewerage and water rate increase memo, and this is, we do this annually as part of the budget process. So essentially, in 2011, the Sanitary Commission adopted resolutions that capped the annual rate escalator at 6.5% for sewer and 5.5% for water. These resolutions go into effect automatically, or these rate increases based on the resolutions go into effect automatically July 1st, unless the county commissioners choose to reduce the rates at a lesser percentage. So at this point in time, the Department of Public Works, Sanitary Commission, Alan Quimby, the director there, has recommended rate increases for fiscal 21 to be capped at 2.5% for sewer and 2.5% for water. And that's what's in his proposed budget. So we can take action on that tonight, or we can, we have a budget work session next Tuesday. We can discuss it then if you have any more questions. But this is a typical, and we've been doing the 2.5% increases, I think now for in excess of 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty standard.
I move to set the annual sewer and water operations and maintenance rate escalator for all sanitary district rate schedules for the FY21 budget year at 2.5%, with the exception of the Southern Kent Island Subdistrict, which shall see no increase in rates.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? One question. Do we have to convene as the Sanitary Commission, or can we do this as commissioners?
I think the commissioners set this, Jim, don't they?
It says to the Sanitary Commission.
Yeah, it does say to the Sanitary Commission. We can reflect it in the minutes for Sanitary Commission minutes as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we can.
Okay. There you go.
So if I understand this correctly, so you're saying, wasn't it wasn't it 2011 or our first budget cycle when we were in a bad place?
Yes. And
We instituted this continuous scale increase?
it was actually implemented before that
Okay.
by probably six or 8 years. But in 2011, we conducted a comprehensive rate schedule review, and at that time, as a result of that, they had recommended increasing that escalator up to these higher thresholds at 6.5 and 5.5 for sewer and water respectively. Now, we've never done that.
So over the last 10 years, you're saying we've increased the cost of water sewer bills by 2.5% every year for the last 10 years?
At least that. I can get you the exact duration of that, but it's been a long time.
I think I remember voting on 2.5 almost every year.
Yeah, that'd be typical.
Okay.
And that'll be part of the budget resolution as well.
And not that this is relevant at all, am I the only commissioner that's on county city and water?
You are our only customer. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So you should recuse yourself.
I'm working that angle, brother. Because I am the only user up here, I'm going to
It's raised bills a little bit more than everybody else.
Commission President, I have nothing else.
There you go. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. There we go.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 3 on page 3 is we have to make a decision on this year's July fireworks event. As you recall, we discussed this a few weeks ago. Our contractor, Zambelli, gave us an additional 2 weeks to make our final decision to either cancel or reschedule and select another date this year with no price increases.
Joining us live.
Director Steve Chanley is here. I think we are at the point in time we have to make a decision on this tonight. Is that correct? Okay. So I think we all know the background on this one, so.
So we need to make the motion to discuss it.
Yeah, once you get a motion, then we can.
Okay, I
yeah.
move to authorize Department of Parks and Recreation cancel the fireworks contract with Zambelli for the July 2020 fireworks celebration that was to be held on Wednesday, July 1, 2020, due to the COVID-19 virus, and select the same dates next year based on availability of the vendor.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
So who is closed? Rock Hall's not doing it? I mean, who's doing what, do you know?
Most are closed, right?
So I think we got an email today from Nancy, didn't we?
Steve, do you know?
I have some information on
There
that.
you go.
Okay.
Good, Steve.
From what we found out, Chestertown is canceled theirs, Centerville, Annapolis, Ocean City, and Dover. We haven't heard anything back from Talbot or Dorchester County, and Rock Hall is going to make their decision the second week of June.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Oxford do one every year as well? Is that Talbot
Michaels.
Yes,
and St. Michael's?
Yeah.
they do. I don't know what they
But we haven't heard from them.
So I guess my question's always been, if we move forward and the governor flat out says there'll be no fireworks,
How much are we out?
how much are we out?
How much are we out?
Where it's not us canceling, it's somebody outside source is forcing us to cancel.
Afterwards, you're still going to have to, I think you're still going to have to pay something to the vendor for preparation and transportation of that. Because they've pushed the deadline up until June 1 to make that final determination without any penalty.
Does that not qualify as a COVID-related expense under the,
I'll defer to my
under the
COVID.
deferred?
You mean, in other words, if the governor
If it's
cancels us and we
cancels.
lose that revenue, and we, not the revenue, but we lose the cost?
I have not specifically asked that question if a canceled contract would qualify for a COVID-19 related expense. We could certainly try that if we
Steve, is
submit
that
that, all they can say is
$10,000
I would think it might
that
not,
we
because
could
you have the
pay
option to
lock
get
in
out
our
of it.
date?
It
Is
might be a
that
stretch, I would
50%?
say, yeah.
That's 50%.
That's half the cost.
Right.
And as I think I made clear last time, and just to remind everybody, if we do, or if you guys do decide to cancel this year, everything is just bumped to next year.
Yeah.
No price increase. The $10,000 that we've already paid, suffices for the 50% payment for next year, and then we just pay the remaining balance when the show goes off.
I want the fireworks.
I want fireworks.
I want the
I
fireworks.
think we can manage this. I think it's going to be good for the county. If the restaurants get any outdoor dining coming up here in the next 2 weeks, I mean, it's an excellent opportunity for some of them to have an incredible crowd out there. Practice your social distancing, sit in your car at the outlets and watch the fireworks. I just think it's
Get on a
good for the
boat.
county.
So of that 10,000 that we've paid already, Steve, let's say we vote to move forward with the fireworks, and you have to pay them the other half now.
There was I don't have the contract in front of me, but there would probably be a penalty for, they have to rent trucks in order to
Sure.
move all the.
So of that 10,000, we're going to probably lose all of it?
I'm not comfortable saying any type of fee right now.
Okay.
Without having that information in front of me.
It might depend on how far along the fireworks company is
Right.
on that. If the governor cancels it and they
Cancels it
they haven't
tomorrow.
rented it, yeah, right.
That's a different story.
Right.
If now all of a sudden it's, June 30th and he cancels it,
There'll be a
then you're going to be
penalty.
on the hook for probably more.
I think if he's going to cancel it, he's probably going to do it a lot sooner than that, knowing that all these jurisdictions are having to pay and lock in these dollar amounts and dates way ahead of time. So if he's
Well,
got,
I asked him on a phone conversation.
Oh, you did?
And he wouldn't say. He goes, he didn't know.
Yeah.
But to me, again, fireworks is, you can have the event and just tell people you can't congregate. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, that's going to be the tail of the tape there. Because we're not going to have any of the other events in the Narrows, just the fireworks.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm okay with that.
If we closed off the Exploration Center lawn, wouldn't that stop congregation, just that simple?
yeah, then in other words.
Well, I
they'd
would
have
just
to-
close,
they
Steve,
would
I
have
would
to sit in
close
their
off that
cars and
whole
watch
area
it.
down. You know what I mean? I would close the road off prior to that, probably at the yacht yard there, and just close it off past there.
That's where we already closed the road off anyhow, right?
Right.
People have to get shuttled
Right.
down or walk down.
Exactly.
So we're already closing it off, and you just don't let anybody pass.
Right. Just, yeah.
I have no doubt that Mr. Chamley can keep people 6 feet apart.
Well, thank
Especially
you
when
for
it's
that
dark.
confidence.
Especially when it's dark.
Well, let me just say, I'm not throwing this in there, I just want to make sure everybody's aware. We did have extensive conversations with Dr. Ciatola about this, and obviously the concern is social distancing, people, getting together for an event like that and not, providing good judgment with their counterparts and their friends. So he does recommend not having the fireworks display this year, but he's, I just wanted to make sure you all knew that,
So-
because it is going to be a challenge for us.
So,
for sure.
so let me ask you this. We're in phase one of returning back to normality. Phase two, obviously, is the next phase. Is adopting phase two predicated on our success of keeping our confirmed cases down and no hot spots during phase one? In other words, are we going to be, for lack of better terms, are we going to be graded on how we performed in phase one before we're eligible for phase two? And is this firework thing going to affect our grade in being able to introduce phase two?
I would say no. I would say no. I think that, what the concern that there is hospitalizations and ICU beds, ventilators. So the numbers have continued to drop, and that's the trend that they're heading now. And I kind of agree with what Jack's saying. Is in a month from now, God willing, we'll have restaurants that are open, and the cases will start to drop. So, all right. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to cancel the fireworks. Everybody that's in favor of canceling the fireworks signify by saying aye. Seeing there's any nays?
Nays?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to keep the fireworks. It's a 5-0. We're staying with it. Tell them Zambelli boys that if they got to sneak in here in the middle of the night, set it up, shoot it off.
If they do one show, this should be the best show in the country.
Tell them to shoot it up extra high.
I think since we just voted unanimously to go ahead and move forward with the fireworks, I think the next step, obviously, as Commissioner Corcorino had mentioned, setting up a game plan on how we're going to control the social distancing components of traditionally where people go to watch. I think if we rope off the lawn at the Heritage Center and say you must stay in your car. So if we have,
You can't stay in your car. You have to get out of your car to see them.
well, they can back in or park.
I think you're better off not even having to be going down to the Heritage Center.
Just cut that off completely.
You have to
can't-
cut it off right at Jamal's, just like we would
Right.
do even if we were having a normal
Cut it off at what
fireworks
point?
At,
Jamal's.
where Jamal's,
Well, you got
parking lot
people
is.
that own those condos and those at
Right.
Piney Narrows. Those are
We
slips.
block it off every year.
And they get to go
And
through.
those folks, they show their identification in order to get back to their homes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So what, we have a police presence, and I think this year you're probably going to need a little bit larger of a police presence because you're going to have people that are going to get out and they're going to, they're going to do what people do. We'll just leave it at that. But, we've already had some discussions with Mr. Jamal about being able to park in this parking lot. He's okay with it. Now we just have to go ahead and fill out the form and formalize it. We still need to go through the permitting process, which means we have to meet with DES and the Sheriff's Office and the Coast Guard and things like that, just to tighten up these last strings.
Important from the public, just be good. Do what you got to do so we can get this pulled off. I mean, social distance, stay in your cars. If you're with family, you're quarantined with them already. You're already sharing the germs. It's all good. But if your neighbors don't want you next to them, be mindful of everybody
And there are
else.
some
and be
neighborhoods you'll be able to
respectful.
see them from your backyard. And some-
Sure. I mean, that's exactly right. So.
Alrighty.
While we have you here, kind of closing things off, the Terrapin Beach, there was, as we've discussed earlier, a lot of people there who I will hazard a guess don't live here in Queen Anne's County over this past weekend. And so I understand that Sandy Point State Park is reduced the amount of people that they're allowing in there, and that's causing people to go here. Some people aren't going to Ocean City. It was a great weekend. People wanted to go to a beach. But I'm concerned that we've got a lot of people who are not going to be following social distancing guidelines when they're at the beach. And I know, I read somewhere someone said just close the beach down. I don't want to penalize our citizens for what other people are doing. But we got to come up with some way to monitor the amount of people that are going there. And frankly, I restricted just people who live in the county, even though I know you're probably not allowed to do that. I don't care. I want our county people to be able to enjoy that beach.
Well,
I know people could disagree with me on that, but
no. We had this.
with the passes, yeah.
Yeah. We had a situation that took care of that.
But it was ruled we couldn't do it because,
No, we could do it.
We could restrict the
We could do
numbers,
it, but
though.
some
But we had to
commissioners,
charge our citizens as well.
but that's part of your taxes, your property taxes. We had a way where we could have in your property tax, when you got that letter, you would get your pass. 2 passes would be with the letter. Part of that property tax would be set aside for this. And that way.
It was $35 a pass for the year. I mean, it was relatively inexpensive, and no pass, you couldn't get in.
Well, some people wanted
But
to make that
That didn't go over well with our citizens, so. But-
oh, I don't think I think our citizens now would,
Well, can we
Beg
limit
to
numbers,
differ.
Steve? I mean, can we do counters? I mean, is there a
We
way
do
to
have
do-
counters out there.
Right, so can we
Right now,
limit the
I have
numbers?
that one and one other one collected data, they just didn't transmit it, so I need about 48 hours to get that information. I can,
I stopped by Sunday to the Heritage Center to pick up my commissioner's bag, and I went upstairs and to our office and grabbed my bag, and as I came back out, I turned around, I looked, and I actually took a video from that second floor, and I panned the entire Heritage Center from the bulkhead just to the left all the way around. First of all, there was no parking. They were parking on the grass. They were double parking. It was absolutely packed. Now, the people that were fishing off the bulkhead were using social distancing, but that's simply because they didn't want to get their lines tied in with each other. But it was packed. And I know we're going to try to have a meeting. Did we say this week we were going to try to do it?
So,
Yeah, the
pass a couple
third.
dates.
You're not available Friday, but
Not Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, try to do something. And it's, it's Wells Cove Road. I mean, it's all these places where people go to congregate to fish. And it's a lot of people. So just a game plan to come up with regular schedules of rangers coming and I mean, I don't know what the schedule is. I don't know what you guys already do as far as SOPs, but come Sunday evening, there's so much trash from the weekend.
If I could add a little caveat to that, it's just not fishing that's going on down there. Because the restaurants can't service
Right.
people, they're servicing basically out of their front doors. People are then, for the most part, picnicking right there on the grounds. They're taking their food that they get, their drinks that they get, and they're just having a picnic and being there the entire day. We've had staff go down there probably 2 to 3 times a day. We've got the trash truck that runs down there and the first thing in the morning before anybody is even up and out and about, clean all the trash out, and then, it happens.
So the trash truck goes out what morning?
It went out Friday morning, Saturday morning,
Oh, okay.
Sunday morning.
All right, so we're having
Monday
every morning pickups.
Yeah.
Okay.
We realize that there's an issue, but as I had conversations with folks from Kent Narrows Development Foundation, it's a partnership because the way that area is designed, it's not designed to be a picnic area.
Right.
And neither are the, and I'll say the decorative trash cans that are there. You have 5 or 6 people buy a bunch of food, styrofoam containers, you put it in the can, and it's full.
Right.
So we could have somebody come through there. Ideally, you would want someone to come through there every 20 minutes to pick it up. But here's the other problem. You've got too much traffic built up along that roadway and through the parking lot. The trash truck can't get through there. Unless you want to stage the trash truck there. But nobody wants to smell a trash truck, while they're out picnicking. So my solution was that, that the restaurants that, that do sell food and beverage out there, they put out some additional cans as well, just like you
And
would.
then they're responsible for their cans.
And they would assist cleaning, that area up, as well as having our rangers go through in our trash truck in the mornings and, the end of the evening. That way, you don't have just a handful there. People are going to be more apt to say, if I buy it from this place, there's a trash can where I bought it from. Hopefully, they would go there and they would help.
So I think
help
that's,
dump
I
it
think
there.
I know Jeremy, is that the general manager of the Jetty, Jeremy?
Justin.
Justin. So I know Justin had sent his crew out a couple times to take the trash out of the county cans and throw it in their dumpster, but I agree, I think it's a partnership. If they're going to be selling food in these containers, accept the responsibility of maybe putting some additional trash cans out, and then they manage those, and we manage ours.
Right.
That's a good idea.
We've talked about placing, an additional one next to the current one that's there. But the thing is, it's not going to be the decorative one. It's going to be the black 55-gallon barrel that they see in the parks. So, folks are going to have to give and take a little bit.
It's better than trash on the floor,
It is
on the ground, so.
But, what I want to make clear is our staff is out there picking up the trash. Our staff is going through there to pick it up 2 and 3 times a day. I want to make sure that the right story gets out there. I went down there first thing this morning on my way in, just prior to 7 o'clock, and all the cans were full. Because again, people are there all night. By 8 o'clock, 8:30 or so, cleaned up entirely, spick and span. I had my trash truck driver go through there, and then I had 2 other guys that were getting ready to come by and double check just to make sure that if he didn't get it first thing in the morning, that they got it. So, these are the things that the public doesn't see. And just because the public doesn't see a parks person out there, doesn't mean that it's not being taken care of. And, that's important. We get out there early. We get out there 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to take care of it. And, it's,
So these pictures that are being sent out of these trash containers overflowing in the bags all around the trash containers, that's like on a Saturday evening at 7 o'clock when they're taking these pictures?
It varies.
Okay.
I mean, you could have, what they want, and it would probably be in their best interest, they would like a porter, so to speak. Someone who's going to be down there that's going to continually empty the trash cans for 8 straight hours. And as long as we're in this situation where it's, carry out only, we're going to have this problem unless we get a little more buy-in and, them pulling trash as well and assisting with additional cans.
Is Bridges doing the same thing, or are they not open for carryout?
They're open for carryout.
They are. So you got 2 restaurants right away, right there at Wells Cove, that are selling carryout, and people are eating.
And the Crab Deck's open on the weekends now.
Huh?
Crab Deck is also selling on the weekends.
Well, here's a novel idea. Take your trash home and put it in your trash can.
That never happens.
Right.
Just doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
But again, if you
It'd be
see a full
wonderful.
trash can, what sense does it make to set your trash next to a full trash can? I mean, think about it.
Because they don't want to put it in their car.
Right.
Well, I mean,
And it's not always people who live here, so that's part of the problem.
So a couple additional trash cans, the big black ones down there, do you think that helps? So if we've got 2, maybe we should have 4?
It will help spread it out.
Yeah.
It won't alleviate, because, one of the things is, you put 100 trash cans out there, they're probably going to fill up 100 trash cans.
Right.
What's going on, Steve, down at Mattapique Beach? Are you getting any activity down there?
At Mattapique Beach, we just, we're going to, obviously a lot of people there, but we didn't run into any trash issues down there that I recall hearing about.
No, everybody's in that Adams Rib, everyone's selling into that space.
but how about to Chris's point with Terrapin? I mean, obviously Anne Arundel County, everything's closed, so that they're having issues over there, so we're going to get overflow. And with the POS money and all that, technically we can't legally keep them out. But if we put limits on the numbers, I don't know. I hate to see it, because Terrapin for years now, for the last 5-6 years, been a part of making sure, helping that's clean with the county and all that, and to see it
Yeah, but
get
I
trashed
think we
like
should
that's
look at,
disappointing.
I understand the POS money and all that, but I think we need to look at, this is a different state of affairs. That we're in.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I
trust me,
think if we have a public health emergency, right, that's been declared, and we got certain counties who their own elected officials say, you guys are not ready to go to phase 1 yet, right? Because of the health, then why should they be able to come over here?
Well, I think that's the
our
state.
beaches?
That's the state that closes Standing Point down when they get to a certain number.
Right.
And they will actually tell you, there's
Well, they
3
give you a
beaches on
pamphlet.
Kennel.
I get it, but I wonder if we could have
How to get
also
here.
a similar public health issue that we could keep for why we need to block some people from coming to the beach or control the numbers. We can't let it just get packed.
Is there only one way into Terrapin Park? Is there one parking lot? There's only one way in?
There's
Is there
only one,
several?
there's one main parking lot, there's 2 entrances to the business park. There's the Cross Island Trail that runs alongside of it.
Car-wise, yes. But
So
you could
car-wise,
come in-
there's,
you could come
But
in
they're just
several
parking all
different ways.
along.
so they just park along
I could
Log
park
Canoe
in
Circle and
somebody's,
walk in?
I could park along the circle, I could
Right.
park in somebody's business, I could hop on the trail and go down, and
So it's tough to regulate
you
it.
never know. You'd have to have,
Well, you only have really 2 ways to physically get on the beach there, once you come down the trail to the back end where the little gazebo is. I mean, that's one main, and then the other end, You really can't enter anywhere between those two, right?
Unless you went the opposite way of the trail, because the trail circumvents the property.
Right, I'm saying you come in from, I guess, what would be the south side of the trail. You could come in that way, right?
I think by the time they get to that, cross that bridge
Anyway.
in the marshy area and they get to that gazebo you're referencing, they've hiked quite a bit with all their stuff, and you're going to turn around and tell them, I'm sorry, the park is full. You know, they're going to
You're
say,
gonna have
well,
to
why
catch
didn't
them-
you
you're
tell
gonna
me
have to catch them
a
right
half a
at
mile
the-
back?
Chevy Chase went 2,000 miles from Chicago to California, get turned away by Wally the Moose or whatever.
That's true.
You know what?
Park's closed.
Things happen.
Wally World.
Wally World, that's right.
There are reports
Marty
of people who
Moose
will try
turned
to.
away.
There are reports of people who try to sneak in no matter what you say. But there are another portion that if you say, look, you know, we can only have X amount. We're at the number. Turn around, and leave. A lot of people will do that.
Right.
So I think we at least try that. It's not going to be perfect, and there are people who will sneak around. I get that.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I think
there's
there's
some things we need to explore on that.
there's a number of things that this pandemic has brought to light in a number of situations, and we've had to be reactive to them. And this is
Right.
yet another one, trash in the summertime, and that's always been a concern, but now it's going to be a growing concern because of the situation.
And I know you
But
guys
we-
are out there.
We
doing
can
your best
certainly
to-
put our heads together and try to come up with some
Well, I
ideas
think-
to manage that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get paid for it.
I believe a good idea right now, just to be reactive to the complaints that we've had about the overflow of trash. And you made a comment earlier, if you put 100 cans out there, they're going to fill 100. So maybe if we've got 4 cans out there at Wells Cove, let's put 6. At least we're making an effort to have an area where the trash can be thrown. And if they fill up 6, you know what, we added 2 more trash cans. You know, other than having somebody there, you know, 8 hours a day for the entire weekend, you know. But I think an immediate answer would be to increase the number of cans at Wells Cove,
We've talked about that today.
the Heritage Center bulkhead where they fish.
What about using, instead of trash cans right now, in lieu of that, using a dumpster service of some sort?
Big, huge Rubbermaid dumpsters, the big
Well,
ones?
just dumpsters that can be picked up, maybe the 8, 10, 16-yard dumpster.
We'd have to take up some parking spaces there.
I'm not opposed to that, I mean-
The truck would have to be able to get into that new configuration as to where it is. I don't know
just
how that
something-
would work.
Right.
Look,
More
yeah,
capacity.
I think we're beating on that dead horse and we're overthinking this. COVID's the reason for the trash. Double the cans if you have to. And once COVID's over, I think that the people will be in the restaurants, not in the parking
Yep.
lots. It will be fine, because I was down there on Saturday, I was down there on Friday, and I was down there on Monday, and people just want to get out. So they go down there and they sit on the water and they sit right on the ground with their styrofoam, they eat, you're right, and they throw it away. So we're not going to stop that. Double the cans
Maybe
and
just
and
a
let's see what
noticeable
happens for the
increase
next 2
in
months.
the trash cans, and I think that that's a great start.
We can do that. Like I said, we've got staff out there that's, you know, jumping on it. Twice the rangers are going through, you know, 2 to 3 times, you know, a day, picking up, you know, not only ground litter, but also emptying the bags out. So,
Are the Rangers, they're dressed with the yellow reflective vests and?
they're park gray, green, kind of like khaki, like these
'Cause
pants.
that's the other thing too, and you know, this is all part of the concerns that have been shared with us. We won't call it complaining, but the concerns that have been shared with us is that they don't see the Rangers at all ever. And I know that that's not the case. I know that they're down there on a schedule, and maybe what we do is we ramp up the schedule a little bit, and we put some more trash cans out there and say, look, we hear you, and we're making some attempts to address the issues.
And I will tell you, and be honest with you, there is not a set schedule for them to go to this place at 8 a.m., this place at 8:30 a.m., this place at, 9 o'clock. They have their area of which they're working in, and then they go through it, and sometimes one site's going to hold you up for an extra hour because of, the additional trash or an issue with, a patron that has come into the park.
All right,
Thank you.
we got a game plan.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, really.
Thank
Thank
Let's
you.
roll. All right.
Fireworks.
And yes, fireworks.
Moving on.
All right, Commissioners, item number 4 on page 7, beginning on page 7, is a request for EDIF funding for Lab Leasing Company, trading as the Water Testing Labs of Maryland. And the EDIF recommended approval of a conditional loan for $50,000 to Lab Leasing Company Incorporated, for the purpose of purchasing water analyst equipment for their home base of operations down in Stevensville on Butterworth Court. So they will be obligated to create 2 new full-time positions within 3 years, and required to keep that employment level at 17 employees to remain in full operation for 5 years as a condition of that loan grant.
All right, let's get a motion.
A motion,
I move
please.
to approve the disbursement of $50,000 of EDIF funding to Lab Leasing Company Incorporated for the purpose of purchasing water analysis equipment for its Stevensville headquarters. The disbursement of funds is contingent upon a signed agreement between the EDIF Commission and the company outlining the conditions of the agreement and performance of the project in accordance with the application submitted to the EDIF Commission.
Second, any discussion?
Do we know how many of these water analysis, do they do just soil, they do just groundwater, or they do soils?
I took, the bilges I've come across.
Uh-huh.
That's
So they're the
what-
ones that are testing,
Oh, yeah.
testing
Yeah.
those water
They
samples?
test they'll test your well, they'll test,
Yeah.
you've got gray water in your backyard, they'll test anything.
So how many of these companies do we have in Queen Anne's County? Do we know?
I believe there's just 2, Chesapeake Environmental Labs and this group. And
And this one?
these guys specialize a lot in municipal wastewater treatment plants and water
Okay.
plants, and they test water samples that are required to do, for various chemicals.
All right, so and then if I'm reading this third paragraph down here, they have 3 years to meet the commitment of 2 new employees. So in other words, at the end of the 3 years, they have to increase their employees from 15 to 17.
That's correct.
And they have 3 years to add 2 new employees.
That's correct. Mhm.
I gotta say, spending $100,000 to create one job just
Oh, 50,000.
For 2.
50,000.
For 2.
2 for 180, isn't it?
No, 50,000 for 2 jobs.
Oh.
Yeah, 50,000.
I think it's fair to say that our Economic Development Incentive Fund Committee is probably very diligent in their efforts to review these applications, and when they choose to send a recommendation to us for approval on the dollar amount, they have probably vetted it pretty fairly. That's all I have.
Okay then. Any other discussion?
Pretty abrupt place to end, huh?
Right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 1. Mr. Wilson.
All right, 4-1.
Thank you very much.
All right, Commissioners, thank you very much. Item number 5 we have on page 9 is a extension request for a citizen-sponsored text amendment, 20-04. The Planning Commission is requesting an extension for this particular text amendment, which was conveyed to them by this board at your March 2020 meeting.
I move to grant a review extension in accordance with 18-1-220C1 for citizen-sponsored text amendment application number 20-04, which would convey to the Planning Commission by the County Commissioners at least at its 11th March 2020 meeting. I cite the public review delay in the process caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the Planning Commission's request for additional clarification as grounds to grant the 90-day extension.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. We had one desk item, and this is a letter to our Governor Hogan requesting that we have some relief on outdoor dining seating, and this is something that's been circulated by various delegate members and others requesting that the governor lift that one part of the Phase 2 restrictions for restaurants, in particular the ones with outdoor seating. So I do know there is a press release scheduled tomorrow at 5. The governor is coming back on, so we do expect something to happen potentially related to this
Do we need to make a motion
activity.
for it? Or
Yeah, I'll do it. I move that we sign the letter to the governor asking him to ease restrictions to allow the open-air dining.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I believe we're ready. I really do.
Just real quick, just to give you guys a heads up, Todd's got a letter that Washington County sent this week to the governor asking to relinquish the phasing control back to the local jurisdictions and their health officers. we're going to get that circulated, because I'd like to, instead of sending a letter for everything we want to see open, I'd just rather see that portion come back to the local elected officials and the health officers here. Let us make the decision here locally. We can run it up the chain of command if there's a, big headache about it, but we really need to. Every county's different, every situation is different, and I just think we can manage it better here at the local level than the state, because I think part of the problem you're going to see is the larger counties, some of the smaller counties are going to be ready to move to phase 2 here, maybe in the next month. But some of the larger counties, they may not even be into phase 1 in the next month. And, the governor's got a responsibility to try and keep some consistency in the state. So he's going to be in a bad situation where he may be holding back the smaller counties. So I just think if we had the ability here locally to phase ourselves going out, obviously phase 3 is the schools, and that's not going to happen until there's a state decision. But I think the phasing on the restaurants and any of the other businesses and also really be left to us here and our health officer. So there will be a letter circulated for you guys to look at to be able to be voted on. And
That was the letter that was sent from Washington County.
correct. They've already sent it to the governor's office stating that.
I have to say, I have slightly mixed feelings about when I hear 2 nights ago that Washington and Baltimore on the national news are the 2 worst infected cities are climbing in the country. I don't want to expose our citizens to anything unless, I guess, I'm okay with this, but you see my concern.
I see your concern, but I think yours is more on a regulatory concern, and I agree with that. And that's, the question was raised, well, how do you stop people from Anne Arundel County, from Baltimore City coming over to Queen Anne's County for the restaurants?
Because we're open, right?
Right, you check their IDs. I mean, you do it for liquor.
Right.
I asked that to a couple restaurant owners. I said, would you have a problem with your hostess or someone at the door saying, look, if you don't live on the Eastern Shore or in Queen Anne's County, don't come over here. I mean, the message needs to be put out there that if he does open up the Eastern Shore, that if you don't live there, don't go there. And I think that's one way to control that and keep people out of those establishments.
If something like that were to happen, I'm good with it.
Right.
I'm scared to death that we're going to.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
That's such a beautiful
Yeah.
record here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We've got 2 hospitalizations out of 50,000 people.
Right.
But sadly, Stevie, too, is the Baltimore City and all, they're under a stay-at-home order still. So technically, they're not supposed to be venturing over here to the Eastern Shore or other places. They're still under a stay-at-home. So,
But if you open up and
well, I'm not saying they're not, but I'm just saying they technically are still under the stay-at-home order. So they shouldn't be coming over here to the Eastern
might
Shore.
be, but
So, but we know they are.
is your merchant really going to turn the sale down?
Well, look, if it's just like anything. If one person ruins it for everybody else because they don't want to, help the situation along, then that's a sad, that's a sad state of affairs. So, and it will hurt everybody at that point.
Anyway, we're voting on this letter.
Okay, we didn't
We're
vote on it,
good.
right?
No, we didn't vote yet. First one.
So we have a motion and a second to sign the letter. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. 5-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay.
That's all the action items we had this evening. If you, we have 2 pieces of legislation to schedule hearings, so if you want to turn to tab 7. And I believe Amy Mordock is out here waiting in the wings if you have any questions, but these are 2 text amendment ordinances. 20-03 is the first one on page, there is no page number, but it's the first item in tab 7 there, and I think all we have to do is schedule a public hearing, have this introduced and schedule a hearing. So if you have any questions, Amy's here to answer any questions.
All right, let's get a motion.
I move to schedule the hearing regarding the text amendment, county number 2003, in accordance with local government article section 9-311.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Real quick, do you want to tell us what this is, the Reader's Digest version of what this one's about?
Sure. This is the processing of impact fee payment schedule. What this is, this was your text amendment that we brought before the Planning Commission at their May meeting. And what this does, in effect, is this process incentivizes the payment of impact fees up front.
Right.
And if an applicant chooses not to pay up front, then there's a stepped payment fee, 50% paid up front, and then 25% and 25%, with an administrative fee attached of 3%, as well as a recordation requirement in the land records.
So this is
Because
just, so basically.
We've had some issues where people were living in homes and individuals that built them never
We're keeping
paid,
the impact fee money.
well, never paid it.
Right.
And and then they went out of business. And you know, I think that I'm for this. I might as well. It's better to pay it up front, make sure it gets paid, and
I am too, Jim, but I just would like to add, because one of the things that the Economic Development Commission commented about, and I kind of agree with, is that 3% fee on the total amount, the original amount. If you're paying down, I think the 3% should just be charged on the remaining balance that you pay down.
For example.
Yeah, right now, if it's $20,000, you're paying 3% on the $20,000 if you make the payments. My thing is, if you pay $10,000 up front, you should only pay the 3% on remaining balance, not the full 20. But that's just, we'll discuss that after the hearing and we vote on it, so.
And that issue was raised by the
Right.
Economic Development Commission in a letter to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission did discuss that point, and I think in essence they concurred, though they did not suggest to alter that language of the amendment, which I think we can discuss as it goes through
Right.
the public process.
very good. Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second on this text amendment for the hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. 5-0. All righty. Moving on to the next one. This one is 20-05. And let's see here. We get a motion
We
to...
can just substitute the 2005 into the other motion, right? I move to schedule hearings regarding the text amendment county-2005 in accordance with local government article section 9311.
Second, and one more time. This is...
This is a citizen-sponsored text amendment, and it was submitted on behalf of Cobros Properties LLC by Tom Davis. And what this amendment does is it brings the GNC and GVC zoning districts in line with the residential development standards that establish a consistent bulk and lot width standard for duplexes. This was a text amendment that was unsuccessful in 2018, where some Stevensville districts were included, and those were not favorably reviewed. This text amendment is citizen-sponsored and is very specific to Graysonville, to these two Graysonville districts, and the Planning Commission has reviewed this favorably and sent it along to you.
They recommended favorably?
Yeah.
I think this is also promoting some more affordable type housing, right?
Well, it just
Workforce
cleaned up.
housing as well.
There was nothing ever there, and you know, we had issues with narrow lots and
Right.
wide lots and what we could and couldn't do, and this cleans that up. So.
Right.
Very good. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Have a great day.
It's good to see everyone.
All righty.
All right, Commissioners, that concludes the legislation we had for this evening. That brings us to our second press and public comment period.
Okay.
Press and public
Yes,
comments.
we do. We have some people on Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and mute our room mic.
Okay. Hi. Hearing my question, my comment tonight. So my comment is. Okay. Oh, hi. Thanks for hearing my question tonight. Comment. This is regarding the $9.1 million in funding for the Southern Ken Island Sewer Project. So I live in Stevensville on Route 8. I understand that there's 4 phases to this project. And my question is, phase 1, I think that was estimated around $32 million. And so the $9.1 million that's in this budget, can you detail what that is to cover? So just a little bit of background too as to why I'm interested in this particular area is because there are 9, I believe there were 9 communities on Ken Island that are slated for public sewer. Unfortunately, there doesn't account for all of them that are on Ken Island, and I'm in one of those. So Wiggins Corner, I'm in an area called Baldwin Estates. So it seems to me that, you know, these phases are on the left side of the island. I'm on the right side. So I'm curious, one, what this $9 million is put into budget to cover, and two, will there be an assessment of areas that have not been slated for the sewer, and that they probably should be? I, for one, and many of my other neighbors here are interested in knowing when we would become a part of that, if at all. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
On to our next comment, who is Justin. So Justin, I'm going to unmute you and you can go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment in reference to Circuit 199. Yeah, Justin Davis, live in Graysonville, lifelong resident. Right. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment in reference to Circuit 199. I don't know who is following the petition that we started on change.org, but it is up to 1,500 people, mostly local. And most of them did leave a lot of good comments referencing it. I know it's in the very beginning stage and there's a lot to look into, but I think it's something that the county needs to look into, or excuse me, Sellersville needs to look into, and the county needs to back them on it. There's nothing here for the youth in Queen Anne's County, except the bowling alley that's now closed. And I think this would be something really good, especially from Travis. He is hands down probably one of the best role models that I've ever met in my lifetime. And I think he'd be really good for the county. That's all.
And Zoom. So I'm going to mute us and ask you to unmute, Mike. And we're back in the room.
All righty. Now, and the other comments you have are for the hearing, okay? And it's 7:02, so.
And real quick, Todd, can we get, the first gentleman, can we get her an answer from DPW?
For Holly?
In terms of just
Bruce, what was her name, the lady that called
Holly
in?
Mann.
Holly Mann.
Holly Mann.
Holly Mann.
M-A-N-N, yeah.
Guess we can just reposition myself here for the hearing.
All right.
Okay, so let me ask, is John, can you get our presentation ready to go here? We have our constant yield hearing next.
Take a 5, Jim?
You want to take a 5-minute break?
Okay.
We can
Please.
go?
While they set up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Margie.
To order. Okay, Commissioners, tonight we have a public hearing. It's at 7 p.m. We're just beyond 7 p.m., 7:04. And this is for the purpose to establish and receive public comment on the constant yield tax rate. The county intends to maintain its current tax rate of $0.8471 per $100 of assessed property value instead of the constant yield tax rate of $0.8358 per $100 of assessed value. Our current tax rate will result in $956,891 of additional real property tax revenues. Accordingly, legal advertisements have been placed in newspapers of record in the county, and the county intends to adopt the county commissioners' budget on June the 9th, 2020. And we do have a one more work session scheduled next Tuesday, 1 week from tonight at 5 p.m. on June the 2nd, 2020. And before we get into our FY21 proposed budget, I do want to say that this particular budget, this budget year has been very unique. We all know that. We all know there is an economic crisis right now because of the global pandemic, which affects not only our citizens here, but residents all over the world. So obviously that's going to impact our revenue source primarily in the way of property tax and, income tax, which represents the 40% of our overall budget. Now, we have estimated those revenue losses as best we can for fiscal 2020 and fiscal 2021. And I can say that we are in a position to respond quickly, and we have over the past several months. It was just back in March we released the original draft of our county budget, and it was approaching $150 million. We're well below that now as a result. But we have shown strong fiscal management, as evidenced by our AAA bond ratings, which we still hold. We have a sizable rainy day fund and a revenue stabilization fund, which we do intend to use for the fiscal 2021 budget. So we all know what's in front of us. Our overall budget for 2021 is $1.3 million below our 2020 budget currently. I want to just reference a few actions that are reflected before we get into the presentation, how we achieve those savings. Number one, we've implemented a hiring freeze over the past month. We are including no compensation increases for county employees, which we were originally. There are no enhancements included in our 2021 budget, which largely were new positions, and we had a number of those. We made substantial reductions to our capital budget, and we've asked our department directors to provide additional saving opportunities for us in the way of 5% across their various operating budgets, which we have now received. And I'll also say that the reductions to the capital budget have been ongoing. The budget that we have here for tonight's presentation was released on May the 12th, I believe, and we had a work session after that, and we made some additional adjustments that are not reflected herein, but I can try to highlight some of those changes that we made, and then we can make any final adjustments at our work session next Tuesday, and then adopt the budget as proposed on June the 9th. So with that, we can go to the presentation, and I'll try and make sure I can use this. This is the title sheet. This is our public hearing for May 26, 2020. And as I mentioned, we are showing a budget decrease for 2021 of $1.3 million. It's just below 1% at 0.87%, a decrease from $145.1 million to $143.8 million in fiscal 21. Income tax and property tax make up 85% of our total county revenue sources. Income tax revenue is projected to decline by 6.8%. However, property tax is projected to grow by 2.4%, and that is as a result of property assessed values. Our tax rate, as mentioned, are proposed to remain the same. Property tax rate of $0.8471 per $100 of assessed value, and income tax at 3.2%. Our constant yield rate, again, is 0.8358 per $100 of assessed value, which is slightly lower than the current tax rate. And as I said, the current tax rate will result in a slightly increased revenue of about $1 million more than the constant yield tax rate would generate. We do maintain our AAA bond rating from 2 of the 3 rating agencies, reflecting our stable economic base, our strong operating performance, and solid revenue framework. We've demonstrated conservative budget management practices and which have contributed to consistent reserve levels for our AAA bond rating reserve safety margin, as referenced by our rainy day fund and revenue stabilization fund. We've also demonstrated our financial resilience during the last recession we had in the 2012 time period by making operational changes as needed to adjust expenditures associated with the downturn, some of which were not easy decisions, and we are ready and able to make those in the future because we have experience doing that, and the rating agencies appreciate those actions. We have a spending affordability committee. Each year we meet with the spending affordability committee, and they provide recommendations and guidance for continuing our strong fiscal management practices. I'll highlight a few of those recommendations here. The first being to make sure we keep a close eye on the potential budgetary impacts of the Kerwin Commission going forward, and we are very fortunate to have Commissioner Jack Wilson on that committee. Now, obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot of that. That's on a bit of a holding pattern, but nevertheless, that's not going to go away. We will see more of that in the future. We also have a recommendation to keep our capital fund balances available for appropriation in upcoming budget years, which we have done. The committee also recommended this year to adopt a policy regarding individual and private donations to the county, a project that we are now working on, which will help us with our Animal Services Division, which is now under the county umbrella. Next slide here. They also recommended the county consider a debt measure of debt per capita as an additional advisory debt measure, which we have done. Excuse me. Our committee urged us to consider and maintain awareness of the fiscal impacts of climate change. We do have a coastal vulnerability and climate change assessment plan at the ready, and we have referenced that on a number of occasions, and that will be something we utilize going forward. The committee encouraged emphasis on maintaining support for items to sustain services, and these are things that keep us ahead of the curve, keeping our roads in good shape, our parks, our system preservation projects. For our critical infrastructure, we need to manage those so we don't fall far behind on those attributes within our county resources. So those are some of the highlights from our Spending Affordability Committee. We appreciate their work and efforts each year. This next slide shows, this is our famous pie chart. This is the proposed revenue by source for the fiscal 2021 budget. And you can see the lion's share is property tax at 49%, income tax at 36%, other local taxes, which include highway user, property transfer taxes, hotel tax, amusement taxes, etc., coming in at 8%. And this also does highlight the pointer won't work here, but you can see there the small sector, 1% in the purple shade, is the revenue stabilization fund that we are proposing to use in fiscal 2021. Our proposed expenses by function, again, the pie chart showing lion's share going to education at 42%, followed by public safety at 11%, public works at 8%. The other agency sector, the light blue sector on the over there at 9 o'clock, includes the sheriff, the volunteer fire department, state's attorney, circuit court, the library, and elections, and that comes in at 16%. So those are the big areas of the proposed expenditure side of our budget. Okay, this chart shows the real property assessed values, and this chart ranges from 2008 to 2021. We have three lines on the graph here, the top line being the total assessable base of property, which includes the residential properties, which is the red line immediately below that one, and the blue line for commercial properties. And we're currently projecting right about overall $8.5 million in fiscal 2021 of assessable base. And you can see that we are on the upswing. We had a little bit of the curve was going up until about 2012. Then we had a little bit of a downturn and a flattening, and we are back on the upswing since about 2016, 2017, and that is continuing to go up currently. This is one of our favorite slides. We like to brag about being one of the lowest property tax rates in the state of Maryland, but this does reflect the real property tax rates across the entire state, 23 counties and Baltimore City. Baltimore City all the way on the left there being the highest at over $2 per $100 of assessed value. We are the yellow bar at 0.8471, which we are the third lowest county in the state of Maryland as far as property tax rates go.
So, because I know that Queen Anne's County was the fourth lowest for a long, long time, and now we're the third lowest.
That's correct.
Well, technically, I would argue we're the lowest. And the reason I'll say that is because Talbot County has a tax cap. They can only raise their property taxes for education, which they do every year, which puts them well over us every year.
So there's an educational tax separate?
That's the only way they can raise their property tax every year is for education. They do it every year because they have to close a gap. So, and Worcester has the hotel tax, which brings a few dollars in Ocean City, which offsets their education. So technically,
Just a few, right?
we're really the lowest for what we're operating with, so.
Good
Just
point,
had to
Jack.
throw that in there, because
Yeah, good
every year we
point,
don't get to
Jack.
say that. I just wanted to make sure we
And
said
I think
it
it
this year.
needed to be added.
We will definitely add that next year to the presentation. Okay. Our next slide here is general fund budget expenditure changes in millions of dollars. And this is where we had to go from 149.7 million before, that was back in, I guess, early March, to today, to $143.8 million. So we achieved that by cutting $1.2 million in pay-go from our capital budget, followed by the enhancements, which is the new positions that were proposed by our various departments, proposed FY21 position at $800,000, employee compensation packages, increases, pay for performance, cost of living, reduction of $1.2 million there, reduction to the contingency accounts of $1 million. We asked our departments, as I mentioned earlier, to go back and look and see where they could save some additional dollars out of their operations budgets, so we got $600,000 from that. We have some savings from the agricultural land preservation program at $300,000, a reduction there, and additional savings from vacancies and the hiring freeze at $800,000 for a total reductions of just under $6 million, $5.9 million, getting us down to the $143.8 million proposed 21 operating budget. Okay, this next slide shows our general fund budget changes. This is like a balance sheet in millions, compares the revenue and expenditures in the two blocks from fiscal 20 to fiscal 21. And again, some of the same numbers here. You see on the left-hand side, the revenues, where property taxes did go up by 1.6 million, but income taxes were reduced by 3.8 million. There were the two big changes there. Some other additional taxes that have been, we are forecasting a lower lower receivables for transfer recordation taxes, hotel taxes, obviously, service charges. And you will see at the bottom of that block on the left, on the revenue side, the revenue stabilization, $2.0 million from revenue stabilization fund to balance, that FY21 proposed budget. On the expenditure side, we did include the maintenance of effort, $1.5 million for the Board of Education. We'll show that calculation later in the presentation. So that was an increase. We also showed the reductions there in transfer to capital budget we talked about earlier, agency savings, and some debt service that we retired, which really helped us out this year. So balancing the expenditures with our revenues at $143.8 million, an overall reduction of here it shows 0.9%, but we're at 0.87%.
Could I interrupt to ask Jonathan why the debt service is off 1.3?
John,
We had some,
come up here.
Is that
Come up here.
funding?
it was from just previous debt that we issued that we retired. So it was a very significant former bond issue that we retired the debt. So the total went down.
Huh. It wasn't refunding.
No.
Okay, good, thanks.
All right, good. Oops. All All right, Commissioners, this next slide, FY 2021 proposed revenue, and this is just another way to look at our revenue sources coming in for fiscal 21. This lists out everything in detail. It shows the FY 19 actual revenues received, the FY 20 budget, the FY 21 proposed budget, and then the column all the way to the right, the changes between FY 20 and 21. Standouts are income taxes, which are greatly reduced. A number of other taxes are also off this coming year. And down at the bottom, the Revenue Stabilization Fund increase addition of $2.031 million. And the next series of slides show the FY 2021 proposed expenditure, and this is by county division and or departmental group. First is county administration. We've asked everybody to kind of come flat. Now there are some bumps, and some are high and some are low, but overall you'll see that we are flat this year going in. But the county administration includes the Commissioner's Office, Budget, Finance, Information Technology, Human Resources, Economic Development, Tourism, and QAC 7. That shows an overall increase of about 6.7%. Community Services, which is our area agency on aging, Housing and Community Services, and LMB, Local Management Board, they are coming in at a reduction of 5.3%. Planning and Zoning has an increase of about 2%, 1.9% there shown on the chart. Public Safety is relatively flat. They come in, this is Detention Center and Emergency Services, at a minus 0.2% change. Public Works comes in at a 7% change, and that is even with the addition of the Animal Services group there in that category within Public Works, which is an add this year. Parks and Recreation is down slightly at 2.2%, largely because we paid off some debt service at the golf course for that property down there. And this shows all of the other agencies that we fully fund or partially fund, and these include State's Attorney, Sheriff's Office, Fire Protection and Rescue, the Library, Board of Elections, and our very important these days, Health Department. So overall, those agencies, naming those few, are down 1.4%. And the last slide in this group shows our debt service payments, which this again shows, like Commissioner Wilson mentioned, the reduction in our debt service from 20 to 21, and then other expenses that are reflected in the budget, the general insurance, our OPEB insurance, local grants, non-departmental or salary labs, contingencies, and contingency savings from our departments, down 30%. So overall, total general fund, we're down 0.87%. for our proposed expenditures, and that's the greater detailed version of that. This next slide shows our maintenance of effort calculation for the Board of Education. This year's allocation was $59.491 million. Our enrollment was 7,498.25. I'm not sure about the 0.25 there, but I guess we have a quarter of a kid. Our allocation per pupil this year was $7,934 and change. So we adjust that this year for our statewide wealth per pupil at 2.5%, giving us the adjusted per pupil amount for this next year at $8,132.39. Multiplied by our enrollment projection, which goes up to 7,505 students, giving us a total which provides an increase in the required county allocation of $1.542 million for the Board of Education, which has been included in this year's budget, which is below what Kerwin would have had us put in there this year, had that been a factor.
No, it's more. We're actually more than what Kerwin would require.
For this year? For next year? Okay.
Or, yeah, the budget comes out. Yep.
Okay, this next slide shows the Board of Education fiscal 2021 capital projects. And this is a listing of all the projects that they requested in 2021. And that first, all the way on the left hand, you see the project description. the requested amount for those projects. Then in the center column there is the reductions in red and the FY 2021 proposed allocations that we are proposing to fund. They total $6.7 million. We included in this in the funding program the facility improvements to the Bayside Elementary School, exterior window and door replacement at $180,000. The Kent Island High School roof replacement at $2.4 million. Some systems preservation projects at the Sudlersville Elementary School for chillers, fire alarm systems, and some transportation buses at the bottom. And a lot of these projects are matched with state funding as well. So that's what we have for the Board of Education. So overall, the fiscal 2021 capital budget highlights include the $6.7 million for the Board of Ed projects, the $9.5 million for the Southern Kent Island Sewer Project, which is Phase 2 in the Tower Gardens region. Our bond sale, and this is reflected in the May 12th release of the budget, was $14.8 million, which included Board of Education, the Kent Island Library expansion at $3.7 million, which we've been able to reduce that and reallocate that over 2 fiscal years. So that's going to be 2 or 2.5, I think, next year. So we did reduce that, maybe 2
yeah.
for next year. So that's going to help us with our overall bond next year. Asphalt overlays for system preservation and roads. Parks at $700,000. Emergency services, $1.7 million for the CAD replacement and replacing the copper wiring to fiber at the 911 center, helping with our next gen projects and other miscellaneous projects at $1.8 million. Funding sources, we have grants, almost $7 million in grants, operating funds, $800,000, capital fund balance at $3.7 million, and other funding sources, $10.3 million, primarily for the Route 8 sewer projects for that project. These next 3 slides show our debt policy ratios that we talk about each year with our Spending Affordability Committee. First one is debt as a percentage of assessable base, and we show this over a 7-year period. The maximum pursuant to our policy is 2.5%. You can see from 2020 all the way through 2026, where we average right around 1.6, 1.65 range. It actually tails off in the later years, so we're well below our debt as a percentage of assessable base maximum of 2.5%. This next one shows the per capita debt to per capita income. Our policy calls for a maximum there at 8%. Fiscal 2021 will be at 4.25%, and we're pretty consistent across the board. Actually shows a decline over the next several years, all the way down to 3.63% in the out years in 2026, which is well below our maximum. We have the last one we have tonight is debt as a percentage of general fund expenditures. The recommended maximum here is 10%, and actually in 2021 we show we're going from 8.4% down to 8%, which is a reduction, and it goes back up over the next few years, which obviously that could change as we move through the budgetary process in the out years. Okay, these next several slides show, we won't go through each one of these, but this basically shows our capital budget by funding source. And these next few slides show the overall 2021 capital budget by source. Vertically on the left, you see the description of the project, and then going horizontally across the top, it shows the type of funding that we have for those projects, whether it's PAYGO, grants, bonds, operating funds, fund balance, or other funds. So I'll just flip through these. This is the detail for all of the county departments and outside agencies. I think this slide shows the changes we still will be making or plan to make for the library at the top of that slide there for the Kent Island Library expansion. Spread that over 2 years so we can reduce our bond this coming year in 2021. And we also pushed out the detention center 1 year. shows our water and sewer enterprise funds, and these are not part of the general fund, but they are included here for water and sewer enterprise accounts for our public water and sewer systems. This slide shows the proposed bond sale. I'll highlight a few projects here. We had $250,000 set aside for the Housing Authority facility recapitalization. We're working on a project there now at the Riverside Estates community for some rehabilitation and remediation. Public Safety Network and CAD replacement, 2 projects there at our 911 center. Our CAD system out there is 20 years old now. It's the vendor is, there's only one vendor that even services it, so we really have to get that replaced. And the Public Safety Network is to replace all the copper with fiber wiring, so we're prepared for the next generation system. We have our Kennel and Library here on this sheet, highlighted that, 3.7, which we can adjust that downward as we discussed, followed by 2 Board of Education projects, the elementary school window door replacement and their comprehensive building capitalization program at $800,000 for their general building facility repair budget. Top of the next slide, continuing the list of projects, we have the Kent Island High School roof replacement at $2.4 million. The chiller replacement and the fire alarm replacement for Sudlersville Elementary School. We have capital equipment for parks and the parks major maintenance fund to keep up with our parks. Bay Bridge Airport fuel depot, that's an underground fuel system down there that is ready for replacement, so we want to get that completed. And followed by lastly the asphalt overlay program and parking lots to maintain our roads and parking lots at county facilities. So this does show a total of $14.7 million, so we are going to reduce that down to about $13 million, I believe is our number for the bond sale. All right, and the last series of slides here shows our overall 6-year capital budget. Similar to the previous slides, this is the projects are shown on the left-hand side. The difference here horizontally across the top, we show it by fiscal year and total project cost. This is fiscal 21 all the way on the left through fiscal 26, and this is our capital budget plan that we review each year and make adjustments in the out years. Some projects take multiple years, so those do include multiple cycles, but this again is all the county projects that we have on the books, so to speak, now by department. And I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but we do have this for the public's review as they look at our budget documents, and this is all on our website as well. So we can go through these. As I said, we did move out the detention center rehabilitation and renovation project by 1 year. And I'll zip through these. If there's any. It shows all of our parks projects. And again, water and sewer. And that concludes the 6-year capital. So up and coming, we have, this again was our released budget as of May the 12th. We had a work session last Tuesday. We made a few adjustments. We didn't reflect those in here. Obviously, this is what the public has received for their comment this evening. We have another work session scheduled for next Tuesday, 1 week from today, and then we will hopefully be able to adopt our final budget on June the 9th, 2020.
Very good. Thank you. And all this is on our website, so for the public.
Well, this presentation is not, but all the budget documents that we went through, that is all. I don't think this presentation has been posted. We certainly can post this up there now.
They can watch the video. I mean, don't you guys do anyway, right? QAC Channel 7?
Put it up,
Yeah.
Just wait until after he presents it, then we'll put it up tomorrow.
Exactly, right, that's what I mean. So
Right.
it'll be on this.
Right, so it'll be on our website.
All the budget documents, the numbers, the detail is on the website, you know, the one we released on May the 12th for their public review and comment.
Very good.
Great job.
That's what we have, and we're ready to take any public comment for constant yield tax rate hearing, so.
Sure, and actually, we don't have any Zoom comments for it, but we have some written in comments.
Okay.
So this might be the shortest constant yield Preston public comment I've ever seen, at least.
There we go.
Our first letter was from Wendy Gast, and she is from Graysonville, Maryland. She wrote, "Dear Commissioners, I am in support of the Talisman Therapeutic Riding. I am writing to encourage you to fully fund Talisman for $30,000 from the QAC Outside Agency Grant. Starting in 2012, the charity has provided important therapeutic and recreational services to the community. Talisman has implemented over 12,000 lessons using horses, Maryland certified therapists, credentialed instructors, and hundreds of local volunteers. There have been many challenges along the way. Today's challenge is a lack of appropriate lighting in the indoor arena. This affects many of their riders with special needs, vision-impaired horses, an aging volunteer base, and several instructors. Safety is the #1 priority at Talisman. I appeal to you to fully fund the support to Talisman, which will enhance safety measures. Thank you for considering this plea for support. Talisman is a great asset in Queen Anne's County. It is important that all of us contribute to enhancing its mission and vision. Our next letter was from Ann Cassidy from Centerville, Maryland. Thank you for supporting and approving the expansion of the Kennel and Library. As a board trustee, QAC citizen, and long-term library patron, my family and I thank you. And we also, I'll bring this a little closer, we have some emails that came in. This is from Kathy Kylene from Stevensville, Maryland. On behalf of the Board of Library Trustees for the Queen Anne's County Library, I would like to thank you for including funding for the expansion of the Kent Island branch in the FY21 capital budget. The board looks forward to working with the county on this much-needed addition to our library system and will pledge to make the utmost effort to solicit private contributions towards the project. Thank you again for all that you do for the library and the citizens of Queen Anne's County. Our next email will come from William Silva. Dear County Commissioners, thank you for your continued support of the Kent Island Library Expansion Project. As a member of the Library Board of Trustees, I am familiar with the effort devoted to this project over the past several years by the County Commissioners and others with the enthusiastic support of the community. Your continued support of this project during these difficult times will serve the county well and may be our last chance to provide this essential expansion. Next up is Kathy Smerick from Stevensville, Maryland. Dear County Commissioners, my name is Kathy Smerick. I live in Stevensville. I am the president of the Friends of Queen Anne's County Library. On behalf of the more than 350 members of the Friends of the Library, and on behalf of the thousands of county residents who use the library every year, I would like to thank you for the ongoing support of the library. Funding in the proposed FY21 operational budget, which will allow the library's invaluable staff to continue to provide a wide range of services to county residents, young, old, and in between. And your strong commitment to the much-needed expansion of the Kent Island branch is reflected in the proposed capital budget. We are confident that the investment being made by the county and the state in the renovation and expansion project will yield great returns for so many Queen Anne's County families. Sincere thank you for the commitment to this important community resource. Our next email comes from Helen Bennett. To the Commissioners, I would encourage you to keep the constant yield. If we need to raise money, I would encourage you to lower or do away with the tax credit for the volunteer fire department, or look at a tiered real estate tax based on assessments, look at the APFO, and maybe increase it and stop giving tax breaks to the mixed use and other developments. Particularly, I believe we should be charging impact fees. For instance, Four Seasons made a comment about more than 80% of the people who bought within their development have moved from homes within Queen Anne's County already, which means that people who buy those homes are probably going to have families, which means there's an impact to our schools and roads and etc. Thank you for your time. And that's all of our emails. I'm going to double check our Zoom just to make sure no one came in. And it looks like we've concluded our public comment.
Okay, then we'll close public comment. Shortest one in history.
For sure.
Nobody here with any agenda, so very good. That's pretty much it. Going around to?
That's all we had for the budget hearing, unless you have anything to say about the budget, or you can go to roundtable.
We're going to go to roundtable then. So we're going to go in reverse. We're going to let the esteemed gentleman from District 4 start things off.
You said esteemed, then you looked at me. It can't be the same person. Okay, well, today, Heather Tonelli and I participated in a Zoom summit with the comptroller, with a lot of our local restaurants and a couple other players from some other counties, discussing ways that we can do the open air dining. So this is not just the outdoor seating, but restaurants that can completely like open up their, like the garage door walls, and it's an outdoor seating. What they have in place so that they can safely serve their customers and keep their employees safe. And a lot of the restaurants have come up with some really good ideas of what they can do, and they're ready. Some people might not realize, but we have quite a few restaurants who they need to make in 100 days the money to last them 365 days. And this is their prime season right now. So for every day, every week that they're not open, they're that closer to having to close their doors for good. It is a very important thing. And even when that's going to be allowed, the open air seating, it's still not enough. I mean, they need to have a good capacity. So this is just trying to help them stay alive as long as they can. The comptroller has been speaking out in favor of this, so I appreciate his efforts. I appreciate him taking the time to speak with the members of our restaurant community and the members of the restaurant community who spoke out as well. We have a letter going to Governor Hogan, and I'm hoping that we'll get some good news, and those businesses will be able to start a sensible reopening to be in business, safety for the customers, safety for the employees. As that happens, they're going to have to be creative. Some don't have outdoor seating. Some restaurants have parking lots where they could do some seating, and I think we need to find out what do we need to do as a county to ease some restrictions so that, let's say, Colt Classic, if they have to use that side parking lot for more than just a special event, what can we do to streamline the process to allow these restaurants and businesses to use those spaces for this summer to have outdoor space that they might not otherwise be able to normally use? This is not a permanent thing, but can we find creative ways to help them so that when the governor does say it's time to go, we're able to help those businesses, try to stay in business.
I see a lot of tents getting rented.
And which would be great, right? Because these catering companies, they're not doing weddings. So you're really helping two things. I think it's a great idea, whatever we can do, Tal, but planning and zoning, if there's, issues that need to be overcome and we need to get something before the commissioners quickly to do that, I think we need to do that so we're ready to rock and roll for our businesses.
Very good.
That's it.
All right. Commissioner Dumino.
Esteemed.
Okay, the esteemed Commissioner Dumino.
He gets to be esteemed. On a serious note, I would encourage my fellow commissioners, I would strongly encourage my fellow commissioners to consider supporting an idea that I have regarding the water sewer bills. Obviously, it's not news to anybody that because of the COVID crisis that we're facing and the financial setbacks that our citizens who are on water and sewer in the county are facing in paying those bills and other bills in their household, I would like us to strongly consider, instead of sending a tax sale bill or a tax sale notice when they get more than 2 quarters behind at the end of the year, in lieu of doing that, that we consider sending a payment schedule where it gives them an opportunity to get back on track over a period of time. I know there's many households where both the homeowners were bringing in income because of their jobs, and now one is not working or both aren't working, and they're finding themselves falling behind in bills. So I would like to see my fellow commissioners get behind this idea of coming up with a plan where our citizens that are on county sewer and water receive a payback schedule as opposed to a property sale, tax sale notification, if they're 2 quarters or less behind in their bills.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Wilson, the senior statesman.
Estimable.
There you go. Okay.
So I would like to open a little discussion with my fellow commissioners on a subject which concerns me, which is that the county fair is right on the edge of collapsing this year.
The what is?
The county fair.
I thought they already canceled.
They already canceled.
It has been.
Yes.
I think that's very sad.
I do too.
They're going to try to do online auctions and stuff is what I understand, but the fair itself is canceled, yes.
I understand it is, but that board was very tippy this way and that, and nobody supported it, and I wonder if there isn't some way we could encourage them at least to keep the farm element, like the competition for the kids and the animals, or I'd just like to get the commissioners to give some statement of support if there's anything they can do, because this thing's run for 80 years without
Yeah.
ever breaking. And we can do 4th of July. It's one of the things that really makes Queen Anne County, and I really don't like just seeing it go down. So
When is that normally? It's in August, no?
August, yeah. So it's,
Late August.
Late August, right?
so I don't know if you folks want to support reconsidering keeping part of the fair open or anything, but I think some kind of statement that was positive about it, because I talked to a couple board members and they said, we just didn't have anybody who was for it, so, you know what I mean, nobody supported us, we had no money, we didn't know what the revenues would be, and I think it's just sad, so I thought I'd bring it up. I leave it to you guys.
So a question, and you may or may not know the answer. They obviously have a set date, and people trickle in their applications and their fees for their booths and their animals to be considered, for the shows, and how. So those commitments by the folks that generally spend the whole week at the fair, as far as being vendors or showing their animals or things like this, has there been a decrease in interest, and that's why they've made the decision to not have the fair, because there just hasn't been enough commitment as there always been in the past?
I can't answer that, but I would say this, that there's two elements to the fair. One is that kind of fairway with all the booths and people churning up and down, and maybe they could cut back on that, but keep the animal part of it, or the kids part, or the tractor pull, or some goddamn thing alive. But I hate to see the whole thing just wiped out.
And I think they could, Steve, because you figure they do basically the first 2 days there sans public. I mean, because the campers are in there, which campgrounds are open, so I don't see where that should be an issue. And, you could do the animal part, which is, like I said, that's minimal public there. That's basically that's the 4-H'ers, that's the people there that raise the animals and sell the animals. And then you could do the auction as a virtual auction. I'm sure QAC-TV could come up with something. I know Bruce could come up with something creative to, sell the animals, which is what the kids use for their next year's animals and all that. So I think it's important. I agree with you. I think the animal side could easily be accommodated there, and you'd basically lose the public walking up and down the runway side of it.
I mean, I think if we're hanging strong on 4th of July, we can hold our fair together, or at least some part of it, so that the whole thing isn't just kaput. But
Is it too late, do you think, for them to decide to cut out that portion? But
jumped
that
in my
portion
head 2 hours ago, and I thought I'm gonna bring it up. So
I think it's a great idea to explore it. I mean, if we can,
Look into it.
they think they got some support that we can do it to figure out a way to make some of it work.
Yeah.
I'm all for that, because you're right, it's sad not having it.
Okay.
So my only roundtable tonight is something that was brought to my attention on Memorial Day, that our new Queen Anne's County Courthouse does not have an American flag flying in front of it, and I would like to find out. I know the original artist renditions of it had one, and I'm just wondering.
Is it not flying because they're closed?
There's no pole.
Oh, you mean the new courthouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a decision to not have another flag right across the street, because we have the flags in front.
Oh, right here.
Courthouse procession in front of the old courthouse, so we didn't want to have the competing interest there, so it was determined they didn't want to have a second flag right across the street.
Hold the phone. You can never have too many flags.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Said no one ever.
it's just like China.
I tell you what, on my street, there's a house that flies an American flag, every single house down my street, so.
I just think I mean,
agree.
it's a great point, and I actually.
Is the flagpole there already?
No.
No, there's nothing.
There
That's
is no
just it.
flagpole. There is no flagpole.
So.
Could we get a
We need to
price
look
on
into
what that
that,
would
yeah.
cost? Could you put?
Certainly. Yeah,
Okay.
we can look at that, yeah.
Yeah, we need to look into that. I
Yeah.
think I agree with Jack on that one.
Yep.
So that's all I had, and that was
Okay.
a citizen comment, so.
There you go.
You can fly the Maryland flag over there, as well, and the Queen Anne's County flag as well. I mean,
Stars and Stripes, we get that one up there, that'll be a
That's right.
plus.
So, Todd, I'd like to see us also draft a letter to the state highway Secretary Slater. I think a lot of things are going on the bridge, and I don't think anybody here knows what's going on the bridge, but there's been a dozen caissons that have been drilled and poured up and down, you know, for a mile and a half leading up to the bridge. Now you're seeing message boards that say steel plates on the bridge. I'd like to know what's going on with that. Steel plates normally means they're putting holes in the bridge, and you know, I'd like to know how the status of the painting, the railings. If anybody drives that bridge, across that bridge going towards Annapolis, if you look at the eastbound bridge, they've put a catwalk up, going up as far as they can go up, and then on the western shore side. And that catwalk, they've been welding these brackets onto the sides of the bridge. And I don't know what those brackets are for, and I'm dying to find out. I got a feeling that's how they're going to be maybe replacing sections. I just think we need to get an update of everything that's going on. And not to mention the fact that they went from cones to barrels. And we got to have 1,000 barrels out there. And it is, you know, they need a message board to tell people to maintain their speed, because everybody slows down because they get all worried. There's so much disruption going on out there. I think that, you know, if and when traffic does come back, it's going to be worse than not better. So, I mean, today the traffic was light and people were slowing down and jamming it up, and I just like to see some sort of, even if they can just preface that with a letter to us saying, here's all the projects we're working on. I know we're trying to set a meeting up once
We
this
certainly
COVID.
can, but I think we were going to have MDTA come in to do a presentation a while back, but we postponed it because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
We can try to reschedule that and have them come down and present.
Or see if they want to just answer some of this, you know.
We certainly can do that
You know,
as
just to
well.
find out, just get a little update going on with that, because that's always an
You can
issue.
have them zoom into a meeting too, if they prefer to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'd like to have the information first.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but if they want to answer questions.
let me interrupt on that one. The Bridge Drag Commission has been disbanded, as you know. It's totally kaput and gone. And now, the new plan is the governor has set up a new system whereby there's going to be a new bridge commission, of which the Queen Anne County Commissioners have 2 members which they appoint themselves.
Right. And that was,
And then a public member, and so does Arundel. So
Correct.
this is a thing it's going to have a little bit of muscle.
well, that was Senator Hershey's bill for the
Yeah.
formation of that, and that did pass, so, you know, that is a good thing. So we do have a little input on who's on there and what goes on. And
I think within the last couple of days, I saw that they're now looking for applications or whatever it is, so we should be respectful of that.
Right. Good. That's all I have. Like I said, you know, the sooner we open up some restaurants, you know, the better it is. And if you don't feel comfortable,
Don't
don't
go.
go. Stay home. I mean,
Stay
you know, you're staying home already. So, you know, I mean, I think that I understand that, but you know, I think it's time to switch modes, and the 95% that aren't affected by this need to go back to work and go back to their lives, and the 5% or less that can be affected need to do what they've been doing since this started in March, and that's taking care of themselves and who they come in contact with. So, you know, I hope the governor does move forward with some of these recommendations, because, you know, time is of the essence now. So that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second?